Hello everyone, Soulbag Gray here, and welcome to our solo adventure tutorial on how to play Sword World. What is Sword World, you ask? Sword World is essentially Japan's #1 fantasy tabletop RPG. Over here in America and in other places in the world, when you think of role-playing games, especially that based off of a medieval fantasy setting, you usually think of D&D. In Japan, you think of Sword World. And for Sword World here, Sword World's been around for quite a long time. It's been around since 1989, when a group of developers were actually playing first edition AD&D, or at least the there's a little bit of a complex history with that, but to break it down real quick, players in Japan played first edition AD&D, made some amazing replays, they call them, of adventures they've done, that being the legendary Record of Lodoss War game. And eventually, they broke off and made their own RPG systems to support future games. And one of them being the legendary Sword World in '89. So, hey, Persona, how you doing, dude? Hope you're doing well. Welcome into the tutorial. So yeah, Sword World. Yeah, Sword World has been here for a long time, since '89. They've had many iterations of it over the years. They're currently on what is called Sword World 2.5. You can kind of almost think of it like D&D 3.5, right? Like, it was the major new iteration, and then it was a refinement after the major iteration came out. What makes this so exciting for me personally, and for a lot of other people who are a fan of Sword World, is that Sword World is finally getting a Western release. This RPG's been in Japan only since '89, and thanks to, I guess, certain factors that have come into play, they're now looking to bring it to a global release. So today's stream is going to be helping catch everyone up on just what exactly are we dealing with Sword World here, and how do we play it? This document we have here is the English primer. So if you've actually gone to Mugen Group's website, they're the ones handling the translation distribution, I want to say, for Group S&E. Then you should actually have this document. It's they sent it to you for free to help promote the future release of the game, which will be coming out next year. This document contains, as it says here, the basic rules, a solo adventure, so you can kind of learn the rules. That's actually what we're going to be doing tonight. And a few one-shots for a pre-made group, using the rules in here. So, let's jump right into it, shall we? What is Sword World? There are many different types of TTRPGs, which are known as tabletop RPGs. They tend to use TTRPG in Japanese RPGs to distinguish them from video game or computer RPGs, CRPGs. So you'll probably hear me using this term a lot. But the one in this resource is Sword World. In Japan, the current edition is Sword World 2.5, where the English edition is just simply going to be called Sword World. On Raxia, the main setting for Sword World, there were 3 mystical swords at the beginning of creation. During Raxia's mythic past, these swords brought forth gods and mortals, thus lending the game its name. The peoples of Raxia broadly fall into 2 groups of humanoids, or 2 groups. One being humanoids, which are comprised of humans, elves, and other people that kind of fit the description of a humanoid-like creature. They tend to orient towards order and cooperation. And then you have what are known as the Scarborn. Humanoids are often in opposition with Scarborn, chaotic creatures who, while sharing some traits with humanoids, are terrifying and violent. Humanoids and Scarborn have been fighting for thousands of years. The ruins of fallen civilizations resulting from the conflicts are scattered all over the world. Now, I want to say in the 2.5 edition, or at least the fan translated version, I think they're actually referred to as Barbarous. So, yeah, Scarborn are very much like absolutely evil, and humanoids, while they can be evil, there's there's a good side, there's the evil side, there's a lot of wiggle room there, but Scarborns, they're just flat out evil. They nasty. In this world, the PCs are adventurers. They make their living by actively taking risks, such as defeating monsters who torment people, or delving into ruins in search for treasure. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Let's set up for the danger, suspense, and adventure of Sword World. Wait, the swords are akin to gods? What is this Soul Calibur? Not quite, but you're not too far off, but it's not the same thing, but you can kind of follow that track of logic, honestly. Solo tutorial. This is what we're going to be focusing on tonight. The solo tutorial, my first adventure, is the best way to get to know this game. Normally, TTRPGs are divided into GM and player roles, but here, you can practice by taking on the role of both the GM and player by yourself. If you're new to Sword World, or if you're planning to GM without any RPG experience, we strongly recommend you play this adventure once. It is not difficult to enjoy, just read and follow the instructions and to learn the basic rules. You should be able to complete this scenario in about 30 minutes. So, we're going to be doing that tonight. Now, as far as my personal TTRPG experience, if you are new to this channel, I've been playing tabletop RPGs for about 20 years, actually. I got my start with, not D&D. A lot of people just assume it's D&D, but I actually got my start with Rifts, which is a crazy, crazy RPG setting, where kind of anything goes. If you think of like the anime Gate, or heck, even like Stargate, you kind of have a little bit of idea of what Rift is about. Eventually, with some college friends, I would make my way over to 3.5 D&D, that is. And while I enjoyed it, I was still confused about mechanics and a lot of things, you know. And boy, did I needed a lot of help in those days. Eventually, you know, I would part ways with them, still keep in contact, but I wouldn't really be involved in the RPG anymore. And eventually the urge to want to do more tabletop role-playing would come up. And I would basically have to figure out how to do that myself and get my own groups together, because all the people I knew who played were already in groups. So that would eventually lead me to picking up a game that I still love to this day, that has helped me actually learn game mechanics, how to be a better player, as well as how to GM, and that's Savage Worlds. Since then, I've been collecting all sorts of tabletop RPGs. I now have over 45 different tabletop RPG systems. Yes, you heard me right. Systems, not different settings using the same RPG system, like I don't know, like how 5e has like tons of third-party support with a bunch of different like settings-based games made by third parties, but they all still kind of use the same system. No, I have like over 45 different RPG systems. So I've learned quite a lot over the years. Sword World here is a really fascinating system, as you will soon find out here. It's a little bit of a mix of like the older style, like almost OSR style of RPG that a lot of designers who played the original AD&D before designing this game were kind of used to, and a little bit of like a newer style of versatility and things. If you ever played like old school RPGs like AD&D, you had a class, and that defined everything you did, right? You don't do anything outside of that. It's not like in newer games or like 5th edition where it's like, you know, you're a thief, or I guess a rogue in this case, and you're like, I'm a concert pianist, and you know, an interior decorator, and I have all these cool different like special skills and all sort of stuff. And then the question eventually comes up, okay, can you do thief stuff or rogue stuff? And you're like, I'm not really built to do that. I kind of focus on other areas. Nah, older RPGs and this game, yeah, it's like, no, we need a thief to do thief things. You do thief things. You're not a wizard. You're not the bard. You do thief things. We need a thief. And so Sword World's a little bit like that. You're going to see that classes in this game are very, very strict to their discipline. You pick a class like, say, a fighter, you're only going to be good at fighting. You're not going to be good at sneaking. You're not going to be good at talking. You're not going to be good at anything except for fighting. And usually that's like, oof, that might take a little getting used to, especially nowadays where it's like there is versatility. You can like pick a class, but you can also kind of spec in other things as well to make it more you, right? Make it more your own custom character. Well, that's actually the beauty of Sword World. Sword World doesn't rely on you being one class. It actually expects you to multi-class right out the gate, because each class you have is actually closer to like a class-related skill set. So unlike in, like, say, Dungeons & Dragons, since that's an easy comparison, you don't earn experience and then level up once you reach it past a certain experience threshold. Instead, you gather experience, you know, you gain it as normal, but you spend it on classes that you want. So it's more like an expendable resource to kind of either increase the classes you're focusing on, or to round out your skill set to other classes that can help you be a little more robust in other areas. And that's part of the beauty of Sword World. So, okay, moving on. Preparing for adventure. To embark on the adventure, gather the following: 2 standard dice, each with 6 sides. So yeah, Sword World is actually a 2d6 system. Similar to Traveler, Battletech, and a handful of others. You use 2d6 to roll on a bell curve, 7 being the greatest average you can get, and then as you increase or decrease, your chances of getting those numbers go down. That's how the bell curve works for a 2d6 system. Hey, Noel, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And so, yeah, The reason this RPG is 2d6 is that when it was developed at the time, Japan didn't really have ready access to polyhedral dice. It wasn't really a thing over there. They had access to plenty of d6s. And so this game was basically adapted to use just that, and it still is to this day, which is pretty cool. All right, so we have our 2d6, but in this case we're going to actually use we're actually going to use the Roll20 website, because since the English announcement for this game, I don't know if it was there earlier, but you can get the Sword World 2.5 built character sheets from that website for free. So we're going to be using that. So a copy of the character sheet for the Human Warrior. We've already built that in Roll20. So that's covered. A copy of the Battlefield sheet, which we did put on Roll20. And tokens. That's all covered. Alright. You know, if we did this in Tabletop Simulator, I would be so excited to draw custom standees. Yeah, but I like the idea of having an automated character sheet that can handle stuff more than fancier looking tools. It's a lot less strain on players, and especially the GM, especially if he's dealing with players that have never played before, because basically the GM is going to be the one that has to look over everybody's stuff, because, you know, they don't know what they're looking at. I certainly didn't know what I was looking at when I was playing 3.5 all those years ago. And hey, once Sword World comes out, maybe there will be more places that'll have more access. Or I shouldn't say more access. Maybe there'll be more places like Tabletop Sim and Foundry that'll have a lot more resources. There we go, resources for Sword World. All right, so understanding your character. Look at this character sheet. You are now this character, a human warrior. We'll zoom in here. This means you are trained to fight. You are a trained fighter of human lineage. You have two class levels in fighter, making you a potent frontline combatant. You also have one class in ranger. This gives you the skills to search and track, perceive your environment, and do some sneaking around. Although I believe this stuff really only triggers when you're in like a kind of like a forest or a nature. I was in between saying nature and natural, a natural kind of environment. So yeah, this is somebody who can do well in the fight, but also has a little bit of utility elsewhere. Yeah, so now in order to track, like, you know, using D&D once again, everybody's used to their level going up. You know, I'm a 5th level fighter, or I'm a 7th level wizard, or, you know, any of that stuff. They have that also for Sword World that isn't strictly related to class levels. You have what is called an adventure level, so that's like your character's overall like level status. You can have multiple classes with varying levels, but whichever level is the highest among those classes, that is actually what you have as your adventure level. And with adventure levels, you can do just typical stuff better. That isn't class specific. You have more health, right? All that fun stuff. Abilities. You can understand the characteristics of your PC by looking at the ability score on your character sheet. The highest are 18 and the highest are dexterity and vitality, both of 18. indicating that you are nimble with your hands and skilled with weapons. While tough at the same time. There you go. I lost that sentence there. A Strength 17 is also an excellent ability score, showing that you can handle strong, heavy weapons and armor. So yeah, just like in other RPGs, heavier weapons and armor require a strength requirement. If you can meet it, you can use it. Agility at 13 and an intelligence at 12 are above average. So average in this game is either 10 or 11. Not unlike D&D. They will help you avoid enemy attacks and sense danger. Only Spirit 7 is quite below average. This indicates that you're weak against magic. If possible, you do not want to fight against a wizard without the help of friends. Yeah, you can't block magic attacks with armor. It don't work that way. You have to have some sort of resistance to it. Yeah, as you can see here, you have your dexterity, which is... Your dexterity is basically... Think of it like hand-eye coordination. You're good at, like, working, like, lockpicks, or shooting a bow, or handling a sword. Agility is less about your hands and more about your overall body. So having a high agility means you're probably a good acrobat. You're able to dodge a blow, or you're able to make a good check at tightrope walk. Strength is pretty self-explanatory, right? That's your body strength. So how much you can carry, how much damage you can deliver when dealing with melee blows. Vitality. This is your health. You know, how hardy you are, your constitution, so to speak. It's also your ability to stave off sickness and poisons. And, you know, I think you also use that for if you need to make death saving throws. I'm not sure. We'll find out here in a bit. Hopefully not by example. And then we have intelligence. And that one's pretty self-explanatory, right? Pretty much like book smart. And then we have spirit. Spirit is like your let's see, how would you describe it? Yeah, it's like your inner will, essentially. Standard values. So in other games, we would consider these like bonuses. And just to you know, keep it relative to what most people probably know nowadays, a standard value is essentially you taking a characteristic you have, an ability score bonus. So say if it's like D&D, right? And you have like a 12 in strength, let's say, that grants you the ability bonus of +1. Why? Don't ask. It's all relative math depending on which edition you're playing. But they determine that's the bonus you get. Then you would usually add your skill bonus to that. And let's say I have a skill in we'll say I have a skill in like athletics. I'm trying to lift the boulder to get out of the way, as it is blocking a path. Well, let's say that. So we add those two together, and that gives us a +3. If there's any other modifiers, we add or subtract that. After all that's said and done, we take that overall bonus and we add it to a d20 roll. And we see what we get. Well, in Sword World here, that is actually called a standard value. So a standard value consists of your ability score bonus, which in this case, let's take an actual example here. So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it here with the Sword World rule set. So we're trying to lift the boulder, right? So we have a strength of 17. That's giving us a bonus of 2 in this system. So that would be the ability score bonus. And then you have what are called check packages. A check package is basically a skill specifically granted to you by one of the classes you've taken. So unlike in other systems, this game either has you do one of two things if it's asking for you to do a check. One is an adventure check, and one is a class-based check. An adventure check is basically you take the relative bonus from your ability score, and you add it to your adventurer score. There might be a couple of other different types of checks you can make, but that's mostly how it works for. In fact, actually, that might be the only way it works for adventure checks. Because what I was about to say is probably more related to class checks. Class checks require that you have at least one level in a class that has a skill set that works for whatever it is you're doing. It also has skill sets that could include things like technique, movement, observation, and knowledge, which are also granted by different classes. Assuming that you have the correct checks, or assuming you have the correct classes available for that check, you can add all that together as your overall bonus, or as this game calls it, your standard value, and add it to your 2d6 roll, and see what number you get. See, according to this here, our strongest standard value for a check package that we have for this character that we're demoing tonight is Technique, with a value of 4. Certain abilities that you can do will call that you make a technique check, or a movement check, or an observation check, or a knowledge check. You'll use one of those 4 values that are pre-added together from your character. Now, if you don't have the correct class in order to use that skill set, you're still allowed to roll, but you don't add any bonuses. So that also includes your ability scores. In D&D, if you don't have the right skill, as long as it's something that's not outright impossible due to circumstance, you're usually still allowed your ability score, like just your raw ability score bonus on your d20 roll. Not in Sword World. In Sword World, if you don't have the correct class skill set that's being called, you can roll your 2d6, but you can't add anything else. It's just a flat. It's a flat roll. So you can only roll up to 12. So imagine just trying to meet a challenge number that goes above 12. Yeah, if you're not trained for it, the only way you can succeed on it is with a 12 itself, because 12s are critical successes in this game. 2, so double 1 on a 2d6 is also a critical fail. So they have critical successes and fails as well. Combat traits. The adventurers often confront dangerous threats in combat with weapons, fists, claws, and spells. The standard values for combat traits such as initiative, accuracy, defense, and willpower all affect how effective your attacks are, and how well your enemy and how well you evade or resist the damage of your enemies. As a fighter, you have good accuracy, evasion, and fortitude. Your standard value for all 3 of those are 5. So a quick little explanation on this. I'm sure they'll go over it later on, but these numbers right here, initiative, that's pretty self-explanatory for those who have played RPGs before. For those who have not played, initiative is basically a bonus number that you use on your 2d6 roll to determine which side, the side of the player characters, or the side of the bad guys, I guess we can call them, the other party, which side goes first. Highest roll determines that. That initiative number adds that bonus. Accuracy. So, unlike in D&D, we're going to keep using D&D as an example. People who have melee abilities tend to use strength as their bonus when adding it to an attack. And people who use ranged attacks will tend to use dexterity, because that's linked with ranged type weapons. In this game, accuracy, no matter what you're swinging with, is what you use as a bonus. So someone with higher accuracy has a much better chance of landing a blow with a sword or with an arrow than someone with low accuracy. Now, unlike in D20 systems, especially D&D, in this game, when you hit something, that doesn't mean you hurt something. That's two separate things. In D&D, if you hit something using the AC system, it usually assumes that you landed a blow in a spot where it's going to cause damage, and you get to roll damage. This game doesn't do that. This game goes more of, like, say, like the wargaming route. You know, the 40k route, the tabletop wargaming route. Where it's like, yeah, you can hit, but did it hurt? And so what I mean by that is that, an example. You're an infantry soldier with a sword. You're standing in front of a big, scary M1A1 Abrams tank that has horrible evasion. So when you roll your accuracy, you're probably going to have absolutely no problem hitting the thing because it's so huge and it's not dancing around, so to speak, unless it was like actively rolling. You know, when those things do get rolling, I think they hit like 40, 45 miles an hour. But this one isn't. This one's just sitting there, menacingly. So you can hit that thing all day, every day. Now the problem is defense. Sure, you can hit that thing no problem, but you're actually hurting it. The thing has a massive defense, and your sword doesn't do that much damage compared to, like, say, a sabot round. So you're not going to cause any damage. That's how it works in this game, too. Hitting does not equal hurting. It also works the exact opposite way. Say you're that same soldier, and now you're dealing with a giant, clumsy troll that's just, like, throwing his fists around, trying to punch you, almost like he's a, you know, like he's been doing, like he's drunk, right? He's trying to drunk box you, and but he's like, his punches are going wildly. They're either inaccurate. You could just easily weave them, right? So he has a very, very low accuracy. However, he has a real high damage output. So if he just so happens to actually connect with you with that one lucky hit, and your defense isn't very high, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. That's how the system handles things. And I actually prefer that over the just assume you hit, you hurt system that Roll20 tends to rely on. Rolling dice. Chance and luck are part of an adventurer's life. In Sword World, this is represented with two standard six-sided dice. In most cases, when dice are needed, you will roll both dice and add them together. This is called rolling 2D. I'm used to seeing that as rolling 2d6 because, you know, there's a lot of RPG systems where they have to differentiate the die types. So I'm still going to use that habit here because it just for me just saying roll 2D, it feels like I'm missing something, you know, even though it's technically correct. So I'll still be saying 2d6. For example, If one die shows a 3 and the other shows a 4, your 2d6 roll resulted in a 7. Some tables, like the history table, ask you to roll 2d6 but look at each individually. In these cases, you'll show the first die as a 3 and the second shown as a 4. Your result will be 34. I believe that is called a D66 roll, where the numbers you can get are ranging anywhere from 11 to 66. You'll learn more about rolling dice later in your solo adventure. Beginning of an adventure. In Sword World, you can have many kinds of adventures, but most of them have 3 basic parts. Receive a request, accomplish a request, and receive a reward. The requests can vary from defeating monsters, searching for people, excavating ruins, escorting people, and so on. In order to receive such requests, adventurers might register with the Adventurers Guild, a union of heroes such as the PCs, and ask them help in finding work. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is, it looks like we're actually going to start getting into the adventure here, so I'm actually going to read this off to the side as we take a look at... Oh, you know what? Actually, it's fine here for the moment. We really only need to go to Roll20. We need to start making dice rolls, so let's not worry about that. You have visited the Adventurers Guild branch of Blue Nose, located in the port city of Harves? Harvies? In order to become an adventurer. Alright. Okay. So, like I said, we took the fighter example that they gave us, and we created a character. We're going to have our wonderful character from a separate universe from the Soloverse here. Some of you out there know her as Anya Pavlova, or excuse me, not Anya. She'll be involved in the group game later on this week. It'll actually be my gender bend from another universe, Solina Evelyn, who has found herself jumping to various universes in the multiverse to track down a great evil that has destroyed her homeland. This time, it looks like she just happened to land in the world of Raxia and needs resources to find a way to jump to the next universe. So it looks like she's going to start that journey by becoming an adventurer. Alright, let's see here. There we go. Located in the center of the port city and waterway towns of Harves, the Blue Nose is an Adventurers Guild's branch that is rumored to be very hospitable to novice adventurers. The first floor of the guild, with a receptionist counter, a cafeteria, and a general store selling useful items for adventurers. The second floor is an inn, where overnight stays are available. At the receptionist counter, a man with formal clothing and intelligent glasses approaches you. Oh, are you new here? He asks. I am the branch manager of this guild, Rosso. Welcome. A smile appears on his face that makes you relieved. It seems the rumors of Blue Nose are true. Descriptions of scenes appears in the above format, broken out in box text. Usually the GM will read those out loud, but since this is a one-player game, so please imagine the scene as it might be presented to you by another person. Well, I think we got ahead of that. So, becoming an adventurer. You have come here to become an adventurer, so it is time to register with Rosso. New adventurers are always welcome. To become an adventurer, all you need is courage, wisdom, and a few useful skills. And the money to equip yourself with minimum necessary equipment, Rosso tells you with a small smile. From what I can see, you have already equipped yourself with weapons and armor. So let's get you registered as an adventurer. It seems that you have already been approved as a qualified adventurer. Rosso hands you the registration form and a pen, and asks you to fill in your name and details. Do you already have a name for your character? Absolutely. Solina Evelyn is her name. And we already have it filled in the character sheet, but just to kind of go over it. This primer gives you the chance to play as 4 different types of lineages. You have human, which are self-explanatory. Elves, which, they're elves, so. Tabbits, which are little rabbits that are, they're like little rabbit people, and they're adorable. And Lycans, which are basically, they're not werewolves, but they're humanoid. They're like humanoid, like lion people, cat people. If you watch anime, you know what cat girls are, then you know what a Lycant is, right? Next, roll the dice to determine a brief profile and to add depth to your character's background. Alternatively, you may choose any histories and reasons for the tables, or come up with your own. This profile is meant to guide you in a story that does not offer in-game advantages or disadvantages. So this part's mostly fluff. So we'll still do it just to kind of go through the motions to show you how it works. And yeah, we'll see what the Solina in this universe lands on for her history. If you elect to roll for your history and adventure reasons, roll twice and refer to the table by looking at the combination of rolls. So this is a D66 roll, basically. Alright. History table. Okay, we got our roll 20 here. And we have Solina Evelyn. Alright. So let's see, we're just going to roll 2d6. A 5 and a 2. So as a d66 roll, that means 52. You read it from left to right. Okay, let's see what that gets us. So 52. You have not yet fallen in love. Oh. Well, for anyone who knows of the sad, dark backstory of Solina Evelyn, this is actually quite a shocking revelation for her. I'm sure we can work that into the story somehow. So we're going to add that to our background history. Now on roll 20, that's going to be under... I want to say that is bio and info, which we edit using the edit button up here. Now, I'm pretty sure when the actual books start coming out, they'll probably mirror a lot of the design choices from the Japanese counterpart of 2.5. There is a complete life path system you can actually go through depending on the race and background and starting class you want to go with your character. And you can get some pretty unique stuff doing that system. It will be uncertain. You know, there's a lot of randomness to it, but that's kind of part of the fun. You're kind of getting something you didn't expect and kind of using it for your character. Yeah, I developed a couple of real wild stories for a couple of my buddies yesterday when making 2.5 characters. Alright. History, never fall in love. There we go. Now we have our table for reasons for going on an adventure. This is also a D66 roll. Oh, 66. Alright, let's see what that means. Her reason for going on an adventure is to find peace. Well, while that isn't necessarily exactly why she's jumping between different multiverses, I guess the end result is that hopefully she can accomplish what she's trying to accomplish. It will ensure in peace throughout the multiverse. So whatever horrible thing that has happened to her society, her civilization, in her universe won't happen to other universes, including the world of Raxia here. Seeing you finish writing your name, Rosso, the head of the guild branch, smiles at you. Rosso says, "Now then, let's talk about work. Right now, we have an urgent but simple request." There are a variety of requests for adventures, such as eliminating monstrous threats, searching for people, excavating ruins, and escorting vulnerable travelers. Adventurers Guild branches manage all these requests and introduce them to adventurers such as yourselves. You don't have an adventuring company yet, so Rosso introduces you to requests that you might be able to solve by yourself. And that's good. So that's actually one of the things that you can do in this game is that the way the characters are built, the way the system works, it's pretty easy to run solo adventures or solo games where if you don't have a party to work with, you can basically kind of create your own party using the fellow system. But that's in the 2.5 rule set. We won't encounter that here. But this game does have solo content, so if you find yourself without an RPG group but want to try it out, there are ways to do that. So. Recently, Scarborn goblins attacked the nearby village. All the villagers worked together to fight them off, but it seems that one of them escaped. If these Scarborn goblins are left alone, they will soon gather their friends and attack again. We cannot leave them like this. Oh, that sounds like it's a real problem, but nothing I haven't been able to handle before. Rosso continues. Worse, one goblin seems to have escaped to a nearby cave. The villagers have neither the ability nor the strength to pursue the goblin into the dark cave. Rosso sighs before finishing. So, I ask you to confront this goblin. Scarborn is the general term for certain monsters that have been hostile to humanoids such as elves, tabbits, and lycants since the age of mythology. In this world, this game went through 4 different ages for the world. The latest one, the 4th age that we're in, is basically the Age of Swords. So it's basically, medieval fantasy era. But there's been eras of great technology, great magical knowledge, and horrible wars between various deity powers and various evils. Scarborn. They are horrifying monsters that strongly hate humanoid people, even killing them and eating their flesh. Once again, these are not... They're misunderstood creatures. No, they are literally... They are the evil that lies in the hearts of men. They are bad creatures that wants to destroy everything that is good. Scarborn cannot be left alone, and standing against their aggression is one of the most important tasks for adventurers. What do you know about Scarborn goblins? To find out, make a skill check. Rules make out skill checks. Let's see, actually, before we do a skill check here, I'm going to put the BR screen up real quick. Need to use the restroom for a quick moment. When we get back, we'll try out the skill check. So, yeah, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. So, we're being asked to make a skill check. Well, let's see what exactly it is they're asking us to do and how to read it, so we know how to perform it. PCs will perform a variety of actions during an adventure. While walking along a path or drawing a sword may be natural and involve little risk or chance of failure, moving a large rock, or checking a door for traps involves more risk, and success may not be guaranteed. In such cases, you'll be asked for a skill check. Skill checks are all based on the same rules. Most of the game, including combat, is played by applying skill checks. Excuse me. Heartburn's been a little rough on me today. Let me drink some water here. Okay. Skill checks will usually look something like this. Monster knowledge check, or bracketed. Actually, that's parentheses, isn't it? Bracketed monster knowledge check, parentheses, knowledge / sage, colon, 5. Sword World uses brackets to help players know when a scenario's text is referring to a specific skill check, magic check, or other in-game elements. That's why you will almost always see skill checks written within brackets. This example above, monster knowledge checks tells you the specific name of the skill check. Inside the parentheses, knowledge identifies the standard value you will use. If there's a slash after the standard value, man, I've been really jumbling all my words today. You must have at least one class in the specified class, one class level in the specified class before you can add the standard value. In this case, monster knowledge check requires you have at least one level in Sage class before you can add your knowledge standard value to the skill check. Finally, the numbers at the end show the target number of the skill check. So down here we have the skill check name, the standard value we need to use, which in this case is our knowledge, if we have it, the class requirement, if any, and the target number. Well, let's see if we have it on our character sheet, shall we? No? Wow, she don't know anything. So, since that was, I believe it was a Sage check, right? We don't have any levels of Sage. Sages know things. Typically, like, monster knowledge. So the more levels you have of Sage, the better you are at knowing what monsters are and what possible weaknesses they can have. That's not the case for us, unfortunately. At least as far as bonuses go. So, just to kind of state the obvious here without going through all these paragraphs. Essentially, they're asking us to make a monster check using our knowledge. And we need to have at least one level of Sage in order to get our bonuses. So it would be, Sage, I think, uses either I think it's intelligence. Pretty sure it's intelligence. You would add the bonus you get from intelligence with the levels of Sage that you have, and then you add that to your 2d6 roll, and you try and get above a 5. In our case, we don't have that. So, as it's probably going to show here, we don't get to roll our bonuses, but we can still attempt it with a 2d6 roll. To determine the value check, roll two 6-sided dice and add them together. You may recall this roll is also as a 2d6. To the 2d6 roll, add the PC's standard value. For us, we don't have a standard value for this, unfortunately. For the skill check, remember, some skill checks require the PCs to have one or more class levels in specific classes before they can add the standard value in. Looking at our human warrior character, we see that she has no Sage class level. That means we cannot add our knowledge standard value. Our fate rests in purely the 2d6 roll. Outside of combat, observation, technique, movement, and knowledge standard values are often used in skill checks. In combat, monster knowledge, accuracy, and initiative. I was gonna say initiation. Initiative come into play more often. The result of the 2d6 plus the standard value, if any, is called a check value. If the check value for a standard value if the skill check calls for a standard value that you do not have, treat it as 0. In this case, you just roll 2d6. Two special results on your 2d6 can automatically determine if you succeed or fail, which we did go over earlier. Rolling a pair of 6s or a 12, an unassisted 12, grants you an automatic success. No matter how high the target number is, even 100, it will always succeed on a skill check. This means that no matter how high the target is for a skill check, as long as the dice are rolled, there's a slight chance of success, which does lend it to giving you a little more wiggle room compared to OSR style games where it's like if you don't have the skill, you can't roll it. Because, you know, you're essentially stepping on the toes of people who do have the skill, and like that's their whole base of their character. For here, if we don't have the skill, you can still roll. You just have to hit that 12, or you have to hit that double 6 essentially. Similarly, rolling 2 1s is called an automatic failure. No matter what the standard value you have, the check value is treated as 0, and you will absolutely fail. This may be disappointing, but you gain 50 experience for when you roll an automatic fail. This reflects learning something from your mistake, which is a pretty cool mechanic, actually. Because we've been there where plenty of times we roll absolute horrible, like, critical fails. But by critical failing, you realize, oh, I did something wrong. I shouldn't do it like that again in the future. And the game rewards you for a little bit of experience from coming to that conclusion. Mechanically dice speaking. Alright, compare the target number, the check value. Yep. So this is all very, very simple stuff, right? So yeah, in summary, when you're called to do a skill check, roll 2d6, add the standard value if it's a class-based one, or if it's an adventure-based one. If it's a class-based one, you need to have at least one one level of that specific class. Add all bonuses that are called out for that particular situation, and compare the check value to the target number. If you meet or beat it, you succeed, otherwise you fail. Okay. Back to the story. Now let's check to see what your PC knows about the Scarborn Goblins. Make the following skill check. Monster knowledge check, knowledge slage, check, or target number 5. Alright, let's see what we get here. Alright, we rolled 2d6. We got the value of 7. Okay. If your check value is equal to or greater than 5, you have knowledge about Scarborn Goblins. You can see this information on page 49. Okay, we're going to flip over to that right now. See what that Solina perks up and says, "Oh, goblins. Yeah, I've dealt with those before. Not very good intelligence among them. Very hostile if you get near them. They have quite the decent speed across land. They have dark vision, so you gotta watch out for them in dark places. They tend to be around the forests and mountains and the cave areas. They're not very strong, but they can be pretty scrappy in a group." Rosso speaks. Goblins are not weak monsters, but you'll be strong enough to defeat them. He holds out a map. Here's the map of the cave and the floor plan to the interior. This cave has been investigated before, and its structure is known. It's not a very large cave, and there is a dead end at the back. As long as you don't get caught by the surprise in the dark, you shouldn't have any major problems. If you are successful in defeating these goblins, I will pay you a contingency fee of 200 gamels. A week's worth of food, or a week's worth of preserved food costs 50 gamels, aka silver coins. So that should be decent pay. You receive the map, accept the offer, and set off immediately for the cave. Alright. So when it comes to those skill checks that we just did, in that particular case, the knowledge check for monsters, there's two types of numbers you usually hit. One is a knowledge just to know the background of the monster, what it's capable of. The other is to know its weakness. If you manage to successfully roll both values, everybody in the party benefits from knowing the monster's weakness. However, if there comes an encounter where you do not roll the monster's weakness, then the party does not gain benefit from the weakness of the monster. Even if it's a weakness that you already know, in-game, your players don't know, and so they don't take advantage of a particular weakness for that session. So make sure to study up, sages. Okay, so we're heading off to a... Okay, so we're heading off to a cave. See, we got any good cave music? Let's see, cave music, cave music. What kind of cave music we got here? Pretty sure I had something here. There we go. We can give this a shot. Yeah, this'll work. Time to go to the caves. The damp air caresses your cheeks. as you peek into the cave. It's dimly lit and looks like it could use a light. In the items in possessions column of your character sheet, you have a check mark in the adventure section. It indicates that you are in possession of a torch and a tinderbox. The torch burns for 2 hours and provides ample light. It also fills one hand when in use, but when the time comes to fight, it can be thrown to the ground and will not go out immediately. Well, that's good. It is one of the best lights for adventurers. A tinderbox is a tool used to start fires, including lighting a torch. You can declare that you will light a torch and move forward. In this case, you don't have to worry about the fire going out over time or keeping track of the number of torches remaining. You usually do, depending on the adventures, and certain RPGs expect you to track that stuff. But in this particular scenario, for the learning, we don't have to worry about that. And as we have talked about after succeeding our monster knowledge check roll, many Scarborn have dark vision, which means they can see things in the dark. They may choose to attack you from the cover of darkness. Be on your guard. Wow, it really is dark in this cave. I better use my torch and my tinderbox to light the way. Otherwise, one of those nasty things may ambush me. And in such small, tight spaces like this, it could be proven fatal. She takes the torch and lights it with her tinderbox, leading the way in front of her. This appears to be a natural cave, with a loose curve. Because of this, it's impossible to see all the way to the back. There are many shadows, and it would not be a surprise to find a small goblin lurking anywhere. You can listen to hear if goblins are lurking in nearby shadows by sensing their breath. Ranger skills that excel in outdoor activities are often limited in caves and indoors. Yeah, I think in the Sword World system, Rangers are great at outdoor activities. However, a scout is much more appropriate use of their skills for indoor activities. Like, I think being a ranger is great if you're out in the wilderness, but being a scout is better if you're like in a inner city or in like caves. However, listening is equally effective indoors. Alright. Gosh, it really still is dark in here, even with the torch. I better intently listen to make sure no one's coming up from behind me. So we're going to attempt a listen check. It is an observation skill, and it is shared by both scouts and rangers with a test value of 8. So, as a ranger, we do have that. Let's go back to our character sheet here. As you can see, we have a single level in ranger. Up here, that automatically calculates it out to dexterity and agility modifiers, as well as intelligence modifiers, for giving us our standard value for technique, movement, and observation. In this case, we want to use observation. So we need to hit an 8 with our observation bonus of 3. That is adding our intelligence of +2, our +2 bonus here, and adding it to our ranger level of 1, giving us the 3. We have to beat an 8. Let's see how the dice rolls. Oh. I don't seem to hear anything. There's probably not any goblins in here. Okay, so since we failed the check, is there actually any goblins here? If you have, let's see. If your check value was less than 8, you do not hear anything at all. You feel there aren't any goblins nearby. Ah. So if we had the ability to discover the goblin, we could have followed up with a hide check, because that is what scouts and rangers can do, to prepare themselves to sneak up on a goblin and surprise them. Unfortunately, we failed the listen check, so we didn't get to have a chance to do the hide check. If you didn't hear the goblin in the first place, which we did, unfortunately, the goblin is on guard, noticing your approaching footsteps and the light of your torch. He is armed and ready to intercept you. He jumps out of the shadows in a very goblin-like fashion. Either way, the battle will begin immediately. So combat time. The enemy is a single Scarborn goblin. Begin the battle with the following steps. Step 1 is combat preparation. You prepare your equipment. Step 2 is monster knowledge check. Do you know about your enemy? Step 3, initiative check. Decide who attacks first and who attacks second. Step 4, initiative deployment of forces. Divide the combats into front and rear lines. Step 1, combat preparation. This is the time to perform simple actions, such as pulling your sword out of its sheath. You are now holding a torch, so you might want to release it onto the ground and switch to your sword and shield. Even if the torch falls to the ground, it is still useful as a source of light to illuminate this place. You can pick it up after the battle. It's nice that that's actually an option. Other games, you drop that stuff, it's like immediately extinguishes and you're blind. It's like, or you have to sacrifice one hand to hold it up for the rest of the group if you don't have another method of providing light. Step 2, monster knowledge check. This check is to find out the name of the enemy, what kind of attack methods they have, what their weaknesses are, and so on. Since you studied Scarborn goblins earlier, we will skip this check. Yeah, we already did this earlier, so we know about them. Rules breakout. What is a weakness? If one of your party members has class levels in Sage and performs a successful skill check in the monster knowledge, then all the players can apply the effects described in the monster data labeled weakness. In this case of Scarborn Goblins, this means that every time they receive magic damage, they receive 2 extra points of damage. There is a different target number for different monsters. The target number for Scarborn Goblin is 10. Yeah, so just like we were talking about before, trying to figure out what monsters, what the background of a monster is, and knowledge behind it. In this case, the Scarborn Goblin was hitting the target number of 5. We don't have any levels of Sage, so we just did a straight 2d6 roll. We did manage to get higher than 5. I think we got an 8. So we know about the goblins. We have knowledge about them. Unfortunately, it was not high enough to get the to discover its weakness. We don't know the weakness of these goblins, and so for this battle, we're not going to have that benefit. If we rolled just a little bit better, we could have, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. Step 3. Initiative check. An initiative check determines which side attacks first in the battle. Initiative checks are resolved as all skill checks are, using initiative check / initiative 11. Notice how there's no class requirements for initiative checks. Unfortunately, the human warrior's standard value for initiative is 0. Yeah, we don't have any. I believe scouts get initiative bonuses. I don't think off the top of my head any other class does at the moment. There's going to be a lot of different classes, so you can mix and match to recreate whatever it is that you'd like to create. In the most basic version of Sword World, there's like just a handful. I think there's like 7 or 8 of them, something like that. But with later editions or later source books and expansions, that greatly increases. So speaking of target number, where did the target number 11 come from? If you look at the Scarborn Goblin's monster data on page 49, you'll see that it has initiative 11. That indicates the target number for your initiative check. If earlier you succeeded on your hide check, which we didn't, the goblin was so engrossed in his meal that he did not notice your approach until the last minute. You can add a +4 bonus modifier to the roll of this check, which we can't. If your initiative check is equal to or greater than the Scarborn's Goblin's initiative target number of 11, you can win and go first. So what they're talking about is this right here. And just to kind of explain a little bit of what we're seeing here. So as you can see over here, this is the rep and then the weakness. So when you do your monster knowledge, you roll against these numbers. First number, just to know what this block is. Second number, to expose their weakness. In this case, it's right up here. These guys are weak to magical damage. Unfortunately, we have no way of doing magical damage, as we don't have any magical abilities. We're just a normal fighter that likes to go hang out in the forest sometimes. They're a level 2, they're a Scarborn type. Soul Scars is an interesting one. That basically represents how many times this creature's soul has degraded. Usually it's from dying and coming back from the dead. But there's other ways that can occur as well. As you see, there's some numbers here, like Fortitude, Willpower, Accuracy, Evasion. There's 2 separate numbers. There's the ones in brackets and the one out of brackets. The ones in the bracket is if you need to have like just a number to like a target number to hit. That's a rough average, so that way you don't have to constantly make rolls. You could just use those numbers and put your players up against that. So if the goblin here tries to attack me, I can either attempt to roll my evasion and get 10 or better, or I can roll against their roll as sort of like an opposing roll, to where they add 3 to their 2d6 roll, and then I add whatever bonuses I would get for my evasion roll and see which one has the higher number. Same thing with evasion. Step 4. Initiative placement of forces. Take out the battlefield sheet. In battle, allies stand in either the allied rear guard or the front line area, while enemies stand in the frontline area or the enemy rear guard area. Individuals in the frontline area attack each other with swords, bites, and other close combat maneuvers. This can also include ranged weapons, like guns and the stuff like that. In other RPGs, there's either a penalty to using non-specific ranged weapons when in a melee, or just not at all. Like melee or ranged weapons are not allowed at all for melee range. I believe in this game's case, you actually are allowed to use it in a melee. Individuals in the rear guard areas let arrows and spells fly from their respective sides. After the winner of the initiative check has placed their troops, the second attacker places their troops. Scarborn goblins stand in the frontline area because they can only make melee attacks. You should also stand in the frontline area because your weapon is also melee. To represent this, put your token and the Scarborn Goblin's monster token in the frontline area of the battlefield sheet. So we'll do that right now. So we already have Solina here, although she's in her henshin transformed state. And then from here, we'll grab our goblin. Put him right there. There you go. If we had more characters involved in this battle, we'll have more people here on the front line. There'll be more people in the rear guard for both the allies and enemies. This right here is called simplified combat. There's 3 different tier levels for combat. There's simplified, which is this right here. There's a front line, and then the rear guards. They're all divided by like 10 meters each. So if you're trying to shoot from the rear guard to the rear guard, it's like 20 meters. And then in the front line, like anything goes. You know, everybody's like in melee distance. If you're trying to shoot into melee from your allied rear guard, then it's 10 meters. That gets expanded when you do standard combat, in which actual measurements is more important, but it still follows this format to where you have your rear guard, you have your front line, but like actual distances actually matter. And then you have your advanced combat, which is a little closer to what you would imagine, like a grid-based combat system like D&D. It's not exactly the same. It still takes some abstract values for how movement and combat works in advanced, but I'm sure, you know, it works just fine the way it's written. if you really want to have it feel like D&D, then I'm sure there will be well-made homebrews to adapt that closer. So, yeah, have all your character stuff done. Nice and all. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm having custom art made for Anya Pavlova when she joins you guys, since she will be a Runefolk gunner, so she has to look like an android. Fantasy android. But an android nonetheless. Alright, so we have that set up. Now, let's roll for initiative just to go through the motions, even though it's literally just a 1v1. Let's see who goes first. Usually, the way it works is, or at least in the core book, the side that wins initiative gets to determine how many combatants go in the front line. That's gonna force the reactors, so that's gonna force the people that come up next, that are not going first. They have to basically meet up to half of whatever is being provided in the front line. So that could mess with their strategy of who they want to have in the rear guard to be protected, and who has to come out. So, you know, if the initiative of one side wins, and they only put like 2 people out there, it's like, all right, you can just get one person out there, and we'll save everyone else. Like, we'll have that one person take for the rest of the group. But if the initiative side puts like 10 people out there, which that's crazy for a party, or if you're dealing with like bad guys and they've got like 10 monsters. It's like, crap, we need to put at least 5 guys to meet that. Otherwise, we can't protect anybody in the rear guard. So, there's a little bit of strategy to, like, the basic, like, I go, you go style of initiative. And it's not just who goes first. Alright, let's roll them dice. Okay, so we're going to bring our character sheet back. We're going to roll initiative. It's on page 2. We have no modifiers, so straight 2d6 roll. Yeah. Yeah, we only got a 6. That is not meeting an initiative of 11. So, the goblin here very much caught us by surprise. And, yeah, he's going to get the first swing. From this point on, each player takes turns playing one move at a time. The first attacker takes their turn, second attacker takes their turn, and so on. Once all attackers have taken their turns, play returns to the first attacker's turn. A round is when every attacker can take their turn. If you are the first to attack, let's attack the enemy. If you are the second attacker, which we are, go to avoid enemy attacks. Alright. Does this have hyperlinks? It does not. That's okay. So we're going to go down to avoid enemy attacks right here. The Scarborn Goblin is attacking you, but you have a chance to avoid the attack. Follow the steps below to determine if you can, and how much damage you take if you fail. Notice your opponent's accuracy. Accuracy checks from an enemy do not involve dice rolls, but rather a fixed value in parentheses. A Scarborn Goblin's accuracy is 10. So that's basically the number we have to beat with our evasion roll. Make an evasion roll at 10 and calculate your check value. Human Warrior's evasion standard value is 5, so be sure to add your evasion check to your evasion check's 2d6 roll. So we're already halfway there. So we just have to get the other 5 at least. Alright, let's see if we can do it. Evasion! Okay, good. Alright, so we evaded the check value of 10. Or I should say the target value. Our check value was 11. Their target value was 10. So we managed to evade it. Now this game is, or at least for this primer here, it's super simplifying how turns work. And a regular turn for a character is you have movement, so you can choose to move if you want. Afterwards, you have a minor action, followed by a major action. Major actions always go last. That always finishes off your turn. It's not like in other RPGs where you can decide to move first and then do an action, or you can do an action and then move, or do like a little hybrid of different types of actions and some movement. This game is very much think of it like a traditional like video game tactics game, right? Like I don't know, like XCOM or Fire Emblem, right? Once you do your main action, that's it, you're done. Until then, you can do movement and smaller actions, but once you do your main action, that's the exclamation of your action for that turn. You can't do anything else. It's the same thing in this game. But since this is such a simple setup, they're not worrying about it, but just to kind of give you a heads up, when you do try out games that are a little more complex than this solo adventure, those are your options. All right, so we evaded the attack. Now let's attack the enemy. So we're gonna go back up to this page here. Your only weapon is a bastard sword. To attack, follow the following steps. Make an accuracy check. If you hit, determine the damage of your attack. If you miss, it is the attacker's next turn. Okay, so we need to make an accuracy check. The accuracy check we have to make is against a 10. That is the evasion value of the enemy. So let's see if we can do it. Okay, so our total accuracy with, let's see, we were supposed to technically announce this at the beginning of the match, but basically what happens is after Solina throws down her torch, she immediately draws her bastard sword and goes in a two-handed stance. Different weapons have different stances in this game, which will result in different types of accuracies, bonuses that you can get, and different power values that you can get. Power value in this game is how a weapon deals damage. So unlike in, say, D&D, where a sword may do like 1d8, right? You roll a single d8, and then if there's a bonus to it, you'll get like a +1 or +2 or whatever. But it's whatever on the dice. Remember, we're dealing with 2d6, and we have to represent a whole slew of numbers. So in this case, we have what is called the power number here. Power numbers give an array of numbers that will act as that equipment's damage, or in the life grass case, healing potential when rolling 2d6. The higher the 2d6 roll, the higher the possible number is for damage. So unlike in Dungeons & Dragons, where if you roll 2d6 for damage, it's whatever the value is. In this case, if I roll 2d6 on a weapon, Like, say if I happen to roll a 10 while using a Bastard Sword in a two-handed stance, that will result in 9 damage. Okay, let's roll this bad boy here. We rolled the attack with the Bastard Sword and got... Oh. We got a 14. That definitely beat his evasion of 10. Is that 10? I think it was 10. Yep. Unlike other skill checks, ties are treated as failures. In case of evasion, a check value of 11 or higher is a hit. Yeah, so in some games, like D&D, for instance, you need to hit their armor class, which is a combination of their agility and physical protection. In that game, you have to roll at or higher than the AC value you're trying to hit. In this game, and some other tabletop RPGs that also use similar systems, rolling the exact number in combat is not the same as rolling the exact number in a skill check. In a skill check, rolling that number or better is a success, but in combat, rolling at the number resulting in a tie actually goes to the defender. So you have to essentially exceed. You have to exceed the target number. Certain games have it set up to where you do more damage the higher you exceed on the target number. I don't remember if that's the case in this game. It probably isn't. But crits are a thing, which we will go over here in a moment. So we managed to hit him. And we rolled, what is it? We rolled a 15, right? So that was a clean hit. Now we get to determine damage. So we get to roll our 2d6 against our weapon. We're using the two-handed power stance, so we're not going to worry about this. We're not going to worry about this chart here. We're instead going to look at what we got. So let's roll 2d6. We have a crit value circled here is in 10. What that means is if we roll a 10 or higher with this particular weapon, we get to roll the damage again and add that to the total. Sometimes certain weapons will grant extra damage dice, and sometimes our abilities will also grant us extra damage. In this case, our total extra damage doesn't come from the weapon itself, but comes from our personal bonus of our attribute we're using, the attribute bonus, as well as the levels in the particular class that we're using for this particular weapon, in this case fighter. That all equals out to extra damage of 4. So we can roll, like, say, a 6 after we roll a 7. That equals 6 damage. We then add 4 additional damage on top of that for our ability score bonus and the class level that we're pairing it up with. If we roll a crit, we can keep rolling over and over and over again until we stop hitting the crit number. So in this case, 10, 11, 12. While we can keep rolling over and over and over again until we stop hitting the crit numbers, we can only add our extra damage, our total extra damage value to the overall weapon, like, damage that was rolled once. So after everything's said and done, if we manage to roll crits multiple times on the damage table, we only get to add the total extra damage once at the end of that. So, and that's actually a little different compared to how D&D does things, right? You roll a d20, you hit a 20, that's considered a critical hit, in which you get to double your damage dice. In this case, we're actually rolling to see whether or not we crit on the damage side and not the attack side. So it's a little different. Alright, so we're going to roll our damage. Ah, so we rolled a 4, or we rolled 5 from the 2d6. That resulted in a 4. Right there. And then because we have our total extra damage of 4 from our class level and attribute bonus, we add that to the total. And then we managed to score 8 damage on it. So yeah, they kind of explain everything that we just explained here. So they make it easier by highlighting this all in red, but it's pretty much exactly how I described it earlier. There is a chance that you can actually roll a critical fail on the damage. But just like regular critical fails, if you roll a critical fail on the damage table, you are granted 50 XP to, as a note to self, to don't do that again. Okay, so let's see here. How much damage does this guy have on him now? Let's go back to his value here. Hey, Velocitish, how you doing? Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. Tonight we are learning how to... we're doing a Let's Learn session of how to play the amazing Japanese tabletop RPG that is finally coming out in English on the world release. Sword World. Yeah, so you're actually in the middle of combat. You just dropped in. So, oh, you're playing some Outer Worlds. Nice, nice. Hope you're all doing well. It's great to see you all. Mochi, pleasure to have you here. Welcome for being a first-time chatter. Kevin, pleasure to have you here. Vilo, always a pleasure to have you around. Soviet, hey, buddy. Hope you're doing well, man. Yeah, so right now we are dealing with... our level 2 fighter / level 1 ranger, Solina Evelyn here, is attempting to deal with a goblin that has been terrorizing a town. And she's in the middle of a battle with the goblin here in a dark setting deep in a cave. And she managed to dodge the first attack, and she landed a solid blow with her bastard sword. So we're seeing how much life this little guy still has. So let's see here. Hit points. He has 16 hit points. We rolled on our damage table. We rolled 8 damage. So let's see here. So that's what? That's 8 damage left over. So it's halfway done. Will they be bringing over Goblin World? Goblin World. That's the first time I've heard of Goblin World. I'm not sure what that one is. However, if you're talking about Goblin Slayer... Are you talking about Goblin Slayer? If you're talking about Goblin Slayer, then they've already brought, yeah, goblins. Sick of those goblins. They're goblin faces, doing goblin things. Yeah, if you're talking about Goblin Slayer, they actually already brought that tabletop RPG over, which I do own, and I would actually love to play sometime. There's a little bit of the Goblin Slayer TTRPG that actually has some similar mechanics to Sword World 2.5. I just need to know, mind your go. So yeah, I'm not falling for that. I saw that episode. But yeah, this is not part of GURPS. This uses the Here, I'll show you here. This uses the Sword World RPG system. That is Japan's #1 fantasy role-playing game. It has been there since 1989. It got its start by basically some designers who were big fans of first edition AD&D when first edition regular D&D was brought to Japan in the 80s. They created amazing replays, which became the legendary Record of Lodoss War. And due to some possible licensing and rights issues with releasing content for Record of Lodoss War in the first edition D&D rule set, they decided to break off and secure their intellectual property and create their own RPG systems to support it. One was a very unique one specifically for Record of Lodoss War. Another one in '89 became Sword World, which is, as you can see, still being used today and is quite an amazing little system. Yep, it's always fun to talk about that. Yeah, the designers in Japan were players of first edition AD&D, and they basically came up with Record of Lodoss War as a replay. You guys would know that more commonly now on like YouTube and stuff, of like basically what like live campaign play, like your critical roles, right? Stuff like that. But in this case, it's a replay, which is a retelling, like an embellished retelling of a previous adventure that happened. So, yeah. Sword World, after all these years of being Japan exclusive, we're finally getting a crowdfunding campaign launching next year to fully bring the system over officially in English. There's been translations here for the books. There's a lot of knowledge I got about the system from the translations, but I am super excited to support the fully official English release once that happens. That's half the reason I'm doing this, is to get people aware of the system and to help support the official release when it does happen. So, all right. Well, let's get back to where we were just at. I think we passed it. So yeah, this guy here, he's not looking great. He's taken half of his damage already. All right, now that he is taken damage, it goes back to the goblin. So let's see if the goblin successfully strikes us. So we're going to go back to our character sheet here. It's just two of us in the front line. We're going to roll our evasion. Let's see, what is 49? Okay, so their accuracy is a 10, so we have to roll an evasion of 10 or higher. Hey, we got a 12, so once again, the goblin swings its sword at Solina, but she manages to parry and dodge it with ease. And once again, she goes on the attack. So let's see if we can deliver the crushing blow with this one. We're going to roll our bastard sword using two-handed stance. We rolled a 12. That is enough to hit the monster. Now let's see if the damage we deal is enough to put him away. Oh, we just rolled 8 damage total. Or excuse me, no, we rolled 8 damage, but with our extra damage added to it, that equals 12 damage. So, what ends up happening is Solina sticks her blade into the goblin, and the goblin reels back. And unbeknownst to the goblin, while clutching at the area of his wound where he was stabbed and stumbling backwards, he just so happens to stumble right where the torch was that Solina dropped so she can use her two-handed stance with her bastard sword. And immediately, the goblin catches himself on fire and falls to the ground, dead. Oh, that was close. I think I've had enough fighting for one adventure. I better get out of these caves while I still can. Yeah, fire speed, exactly. Alright, let's check the book here. See what happens. Okay, so we clearly won that fight, right? Something we didn't really touch on because we actually managed to evade the blows, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, is defense. The reason we were able to not take any damage is because our evasion was good enough to avoid getting hit. But if we were to fail that and get hit, our defense, which usually consists of our armor and maybe certain other abilities, are used to essentially negate damage. So unlike in D&D, where your armor is your AC, and if you succeed on a hit, you just deal damage, in this game, you can possibly get hit, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get hurt if your damage is, or if your defense is strong enough. So the defense that our character has see, she has a total evasion of 5, so that's to avoid getting hit. She has a total defense of 4, which is to avoid getting hurt. That defense of 4 specifically comes from the hard leather. The defense, or the evasion of 5, comes from our fighter level of 2 and our evasion with our buckler, as well as the agility bonus that we get. All that combined together is a total evasion that we get to add to our 2d6 roll of 5. So, but, yeah, just as an example, we get hit, we got dealt 6 damage total from the goblin. Our defense will help us shrug off 4 of that, so we'll only take 2 damage. And honestly, I prefer this a lot more than, your typical D20 D&D style, where it's like all or nothing. It's like, I like this. I like this idea better. I like it when it's divided to, can you get hit, and then can you get hurt. Feels more realistic that way. Alright, so we need to go to page 19 now that we have defeated the Scarborn Goblin. Oh, actually, before we move on, this is important. It didn't happen to us, but if it were to happen to us, it's good to know how to deal with it. If you become unconscious, if your HP falls to 0, you perform what is called a death check, which is a fortitude, and it's a special type of target number. For death checks, the target number starts at 0. It increases by 1 for every hit point gone into the negative. For example, a human warrior has 24 hit points. If they receive 35 damage, gosh, that's a lot of damage. Their hit points are now at a negative 11. That makes the target number for the death check an 11. The fortitude standard value is added to the death check. So we have our fortitude number. So we go back to this page over here. Let's see, where's fortitude? Oh. There's right there. So our fortitude number. Oh, Soviet, I apologize. I didn't get a chance to thank you for the resubscribe for the tier 1. I really appreciate it. Oh, and thank you for the health check redeem. I'm going to drink some water here. I know I could definitely use it right now. Been talking a lot. Okay. There we go. The fortitude standard value is added to a death check, making it somewhat easier. Your human has a fortitude of 5, so in this example above, a 2d6. A 2d6 of 6 or higher would be a success, because we're adding that 5 to it. If you succeed on a death check, you have escaped your final end. For now. However, if you are still unconscious, continue to awaken. Where's that at? If you failed your death check, you have died. Your adventure ends here. Well, dang. Okay, this is the attack and defense summary. For your viewing pleasure. Oh boy. Yeah, so attack summary. You attack with accuracy. You need to exceed their evasion. If you miss, it's the attacker's, or it's the next attacker's turn. If you hit, you roll 2d6 and apply the result to the weapon power table. Add any extra damage if you have any extra damage available. If you roll a critical fail on the damage table, you earn 50 XP to know not to do that again. If you roll a critical hit, you continue to roll and add more damage. And you add that all together. Once you stop rolling criticals, you add that all together and add any additional extra damage die at the end, if you have any. Then you reduce the target's damage by their defense. You know what? I didn't even bother checking to see if it had defense. Let's check. Let's check real quick. All right, we're doing it live. Ah, it has a defense points of 2. So technically, between those 2 hits that we did, it would have shrugged off 4 damage. 2 from the first and 2 from the second. However, we did roll, what was it? We did roll 12 damage here. So if we subtract 4 from that, that's enough to still kill it. That's exactly 16 damage that it took. So it still is technically dead. And we'll just mark it here on the... There we go. It makes that exact death sound. Bleh. Okay, reduce hit points as needed, and then goes to the attacker's next turn. Defense. When you're attacked, you make an evasion check with the target number equal to your opponent's accuracy. If you meet or beat the target number, the attack misses. If you are hit, roll the attacker's damage. Subtract that damage from your defensive from your defense. Reduce your hit points. If you have any health remaining, you're good to go. If you drop to 0, you fall unconscious and must make a death check. If you succeed on it, you're alive but still unconscious. If you fail it, you have met your end. Okay. All right, so we didn't do this, so we just go to let's see, where do we go here? Okay. Page 19. After you defeat the Scarborn Goblin, you can take loot from the Goblin. Look at the loot table at the bottom of the Goblin data roll, or Goblin data, and roll 2d6. You get loot corresponding to the roll. While loot may represent objects and baubles, I don't know what that means, it can only be sold. Sold? The number in parentheses is the number of gamels you gain for selling it. By example, crude weapon, which is 10 gamels / black and white B, can be sold for 10 gamels. The black and white B does not apply to this scenario, so please ignore it. Oh, okay, so that's just extra steps for stuff. After you take the loot, you hear the voice behind you. Okay. Let's see what that loot is. Okay, so we're going to roll 2d6 and see what we get here. We can either find a crude weapon of somewhat better quality, or a high weapon, or a high quality weapon. That'll determine how much we can sell this thing for. Five. So we happen to find a crude weapon on this goblin that is worth 30 gamels. So I'm assuming we could just probably put that in our pocket right now. At least for this scenario. Usually we'd have to go into town to do that, but, you know, for the sake of speeding it up. Okay, so we went from 50 to 80. There we go. Okay, let's see where we're at in the story. Okay. After you take the loot, you hear a voice behind you. It seems you have defeated the goblin without incident. You look back and see an elf priest approaching you. He also asked us to check on you because he was worried that you would be alone worried about you being alone. But it seems that it was needless worry. Behind him are two more adventurers, one resembling a human-like rabbit, and another with ears and tail of a beast. With a sense of relief, you realize these adventurers are all friendly. It is time to get out of this cave. Together you walk into the sunshine of the outdoors. Alright, let's make that little scene transition here. Got a lot of source layers here, so give me a moment. Okay. All three adventurers you encounter are humanoids, but they are not human. Elves are slender and tall, with long pointed ears. They are quick and dexterous with their hands, and tend to be good at magic. This elf is dressed in a priest garb, and wears the holy symbol of Tidan, the god of sun. Tabbits are a lineage of humanoids that resemble walking, talking rabbits. While they might be diminutive and physically weaker than other lineages, they tend to be cunning and excel at being magicians. This tabbit appears to use some kind of magic, but it isn't obvious what that magic is. Yeah. Lycants are a lineage with ears and tails of beasts. They have the supple body of a great predator and are often excellent in scouting. You are guessing this Lycant is a grappler, judging from the minimum weapons they carry, which is basically like a boxer. Now that you think of it, perhaps these three would be a good adventurers to work with. As if they read your mind, the elf offers some advice. For now, let's go back to the Blue Nose. If you'd like, it isn't a bad idea to go on another adventure together. You decide to nod, or you decide whether you nod in agreement with the elf or not, based on how your adventure feels. Either way, you should return to the Adventurers Guild branch and Harves to report your findings. What will your next adventure be like? These thoughts come to mind. It's time to return home. Because you completed the request, you receive 200 gamels / silver coins as a reward from Rosso at the Adventurers Guild branch. Please note, the reward of 200 gamels plus the loot on your character sheet. Okay, which we will make sure to do so here. Definitely not passing up on money. So that puts us now at 280 for the amount of gamels we have on our person. Okay. What you do from now on is up to you. If you decide to go on an adventure with a new group of friends, someone, or yourself, can be the GM and try the next scenario. If you're going to be the GM, it's often a good idea to read the scenario in advance. Or you can choose to perform the role without rehearsal. Whichever path you choose, have a good adventurous life. This concludes Part 1. Game Primer and Solo Adventure. Yeah. And there we go. With that amount of time there, we were able to learn some basic mechanics. Saw how the character sheets work for our player as well as the enemies we came in contact with. And even had a nice little mock battle to see how simple combat worked. Now, does anybody in chat have any questions about any systems they saw or anything that may have been confusing? Be more than happy to help answer any questions. If there isn't any questions, this upcoming Friday I will be hosting a one of these scenarios that they have in this primer book. Right now we have, I want to say we have 3 players. Yeah, it's more than likely we do have 3 players. A 4th may be available if anybody is interested. Otherwise, I'll have Anya take that 4th slot. But yeah, we'll be having some fun this upcoming Friday. Trying out one of the basic scenarios to better understand the game, you know, outside of this small solo scenario experience. And yeah, I don't know if I have questions so much as a what's that? What is your question, Noel? As well as a character sheet to look at? Ah, okay. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at your character sheet here. All right. So yeah, Renia Melis, looks like. I see you are the mysterious race known as female. Just kind of interesting. Why is that shown that way? Isn't this drop-down menu? Not really sure. Whoops. Oh, okay, it's that one. I was like, do they differentiate between male and female elves? No, it's just a... Okay. I should be able to edit this. I think... Yeah. Kind of not sure why. Let's see. There we go. Hey, you got it. Okay. Let's see. Was there any other changes you made? It's kind of laggy when I was doing it last night. Like Roll20 started lagging like crazy. Okay, you got 2 levels in Grappler, 1 in Marksman, and 1 in Ranger. Yeah. It's pretty much what we were talking about. Got Dark Vision. Yeah, I redid the whole process, or except when I went through the... Okay. Okay. So you went through the different core books? Nice. I gotta remember all these different stances, because there's so many different stances. Not just like one-handed or two-handed, it's like one-handed asterisk. Two-handed, a pound sign. One-handed cross. It's like, what do half of these mean? Really, you had an easier time understanding it than a primer. Interesting. Then again, the primer is super basic with how they present stuff. They just want you to know, like, the immediate questions to play a basic game without getting super bogged down in, like, systems and how everything works. You know, as related to the primer. So, yeah, there's plenty of stuff where if I didn't know it beforehand, looking at it, I'd be like, huh, I wonder how they came to that, you know? Punching, punch, kick, and throw should be at the top, but it kept reverting. What do you mean reverting? So some of the data on that might be wrong. Okay, I mean that's stuff we can check, you know. Nice. Normal move of 24. That's pretty fast. Full move of 72 meters. Gosh dang. 21 health. 16 MP. Willpower at 4. Same thing with fortitude. Evasion of 6. Nice. And then, whoops. Now the kick has the normal bow data. Uh-oh. Yeah, we'll definitely need to go through this. With all the materials. But we can do that after stream. Alright, let's see. Is there any other questions from you, Noel, or anyone else in chat about the basics of Sword World before we conclude for the night? I need to buy equipment. Okay. All right. Well, that was our fun little Let's Learn solo scenario stream for Sword World. I hope you all enjoyed our time together as we got to learn the basics of the game and have a little mini scenario with Solina. And I'm looking forward to playing this more with you guys starting this Friday, as well as just getting back into tabletop RPG streams in general. It's been a while since we've done any RPG system. You know, it's been a pretty rough and busy past like 2 to 3 months. So hoping I'll have a little more time to just relax and have fun, you know, doing a tabletop RPG while attempting to finish off my my upcoming re-debut material stuff. So, but yeah.